Today is the one-year anniversary of the Hamas invasion of Israel on October 7th, 2023. What really happened on that day and over the last year as a result? Why did they invade, and what does the future hold? Well, I'm going to share my personal testimony, the truth, false narratives, and discuss prophesied events on the horizon on this edition of the Endtime Show. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Dave Robbins with Endtime Ministries. I do thank you for joining me on this edition of the Endtime Show. Wow, what a year it has been. I know many of you that are listening were with us, my wife and I, on the trip last year when we got stuck in Israel during a declared state of war. We're going to talk about that today and many other things. So, what happened on October 7th, 2023? 1 year ago today? The American Thinker and many other news sources have, it's all actually dominating the headlines today. Exactly 1 year ago, around 6,000 men from Gaza, a combination of official Hamas soldiers and enthusiastic civilians, don't let anybody tell you anything else, including the UNRWA employees, the United Nations, UNRWA, they streamed into Israel, and their goal was to slaughter Jewish civilians, and did they succeed? Wow. They mowed down attendees at a music festival and civilians in their homes in cold blood. They killed just over 1,200 people outright. They wounded about 3,500 more in the initial invasion, and they kidnapped 251 civilians, including 30 Americans, including children, 65 of whom are known to be dead. Those numbers, they don't come close to describing the sheer horror of what these, now I'm going to call them men, but I don't think they had a finite mind. I'll just be honest with you. The horror of what these men set out to do. The goal wasn't to just kill. Instead, these individuals were satanic, bestial, unhuman demons. Now, I won't get very graphic here, but I mean, you can just imagine these individuals raped women to death. Now, that would have been one thing. The problem is, while they were raping them, they were torturing them in some of the most horrific ways during that process. They slaughtered babies in their cribs, and they murdered parents in front of their children. They murdered the children in front of their parents. And folks, this was not war, as the Hamas apologists argue. I mean, for example, a principled stand against colonialization. This was terrorism in its purest sense. Cutting people's heads off with shovels, and just all kinds of things like that. For Jews, it was the worst single day since the Holocaust. For Israel specifically, it was the worst single day since the fall of Jerusalem in 70 A.D., and to find other such disastrous days for the Jews in Israel, you'd have to almost go back to the Maccabean revolt in 167 to back 160 BC, the Babylonian captivity in the 6th century, early 6th century BC, and the Assyrian conquest in that would be the late 8th century BC. It was just horrific, and my wife and I were there when it took place. So we're going to talk about it here in just a moment. First, let me mention Birch Gold. You know, these are crazy times, right? But there is peace of mind in security. Security for our country, our leaders, and our families. But think about this. You're not. I had people asking me about some financial investments and things like that last week in our conference out in Long Beach, California. And I was telling them that, I'm not a financial advisor, but I have done some things. And the last thing you want to do is to have all your eggs in one basket. You're not financially secure if that's the case. Gold and silver, they are a way to diversify your savings. They are a hedge against inflation, and they're a physical asset that is in high demand globally, especially from the wealthy and the central banks. They're buying up gold like there's no tomorrow. So, through my friends at Birch Gold Group, you can own physical gold and silver in a tax-sheltered retirement account. That's right. One thing you can do to secure your family savings is diversify an old IRA or a 401k for no money out of pocket into an IRA in gold and silver. You can visit birchgold.com/endtime and receive a free, no-obligation info kit and learn the role that precious metals can play in your overall saving strategy. Again, visit birchgold.com/endtime today. Also, I want to let you know an upcoming prophecy conference that we're going to do. I've only got 2 left this year. I'm going to be at the Eastern Washington University, the Pence Union Building, 926 Elm Street, up in Cheney, Washington. All the way up in the state of Washington, up there, just south of Spokane, Washington. I think it's about 15 or 20 minutes south of there. So that's going to be on October 26th, one night only, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m., and I'll be teaching the Green Horseman and World War III. So we've looked forward to going back to Spokane and Cheney, Washington area. We'll see you guys up there on October 26th. Also, I want to announce a new Bible study just started a few weeks ago by my son and I. My son is doing the Bible study, and it's at the Apostolic Church Dallas, right downtown in Highland Park, 4711 West Side Drive, and he's doing it every Monday night at 7:30 p.m. He'll be doing it tonight down there, 4711 West Side Drive. Check it out. He's got a great Bible study going. They had a bunch of new people last week, so certainly want to see you guys down there tonight at 7:30 p.m. All right, so this horrific thing, this horrific incident, this invasion of Israel back on October 7th of last year. Today is the 1-year anniversary. Well, when Hamas invaded right around 6:29, 6:30 in the morning, according to the cameras that were down there, and they came through 3 barriers with bulldozers and jeeps and just flying little gyrocopters, and they were invading from the Mediterranean Sea in rubber rafts, and they just invaded they swarmed like bees into southern Israel down there. And again, they killed just over 1,200 people, and they took 251 hostages. Many of them will never return home. That happened about 6:30 a.m. in the morning. At 6:30 a.m., my wife and I and our tour group would have been just getting down to breakfast. 6:30 to 7, we're getting down to breakfast that morning, touring in Israel. We got on the bus about 8:30. We headed down to the Jordan Valley. At 9:30 a.m. that morning, my wife Jana and I had a tour group up on Mount Masada, which would be down in the Jordan Valley on the southern end of the Dead Sea. We're up on top of that mountain. All of a sudden, we had about, 40 or 50 people with us. All of a sudden, we hear several loud booms. Like I thought it was Israel testing a tank or something like that. Or some kind of military operation like that. They were testing some stuff, practicing, preparing for a future conflict. And if you've ever been to a fireworks show and the real super loud ones that just reverberate in your chest, that's what it felt like. So immediately I'm sitting here looking at our tour guide, who's an ex-Navy SEAL for the Israeli Defense Forces, and we're looking at each other. I've got this big tour group with me, and he just shrugged his shoulders like, I don't know what that is. Well, he immediately gets a phone call, and SARL Tours, which is our tour group that we went with for years, they told him that, hey, Hamas is firing rockets into Israel. there's been an invasion and that we need to get straight down and return to the hotel immediately. Normally, we would go to Engedi, the Dead Sea, many different places, eat lunch down there at Qumran. No. Immediately, get them down, get them back to the hotel. Well, at that point, we didn't fully understand what Hamas was doing. We had no access to televisions. We had, we're just down by the Dead Sea. So reception on your cell phone is almost zero. So this event is what started everything on our tour as far as the war was concerned. On the way back to the hotel, our guide told us that, hey, he's getting updates because he's still part of the IDF. And you never really, once you're part of the IDF, you never really get out of the military. So he's got access to military websites and information because when they have an armed conflict, he'll go down there as an advisor, and he's 67 years old. Well, on the way back to the hotel, our guide told us, hey, look, guys, I'm getting texts and things. It is bad. And he said Hamas had broken through the Gaza barrier down there, kidnapped a bunch of Israeli soldiers and civilians, and killed a bunch of people. That's all we knew. Then he informed us that he got off, he looked at his cell, and his 3 sons, now this is by about 10 o'clock that morning, his 3 sons had been called up, along with tens of thousands of other reserves, to go down and fight Hamas. Now, he said this is it's kind of unprecedented. So, October 7th was the largest terrorist invasion in Israeli history. And I asked our tour guide, who is an ex-Navy SEAL, again, for the IDF, will Israel go after the head of the snake? Because I understand the ring of fire and everything around Israel and the terrorist proxies. I said, will they go? And I understood that without a green light, Hamas never would have invaded Israel like they did. A green light from Iran. So I asked Ito, I said, man, well, are they going to go straight and fight the head of the snake? Now will they invade Israel? He said, oh, no, we'd be in World War III tomorrow if that happened. Well, guess what? That's exactly what the Bible says is coming at any time, if it has not already begun. That was October 7th. The next day, Israel officially declares a state of war. We're in Israel. That's on a Sunday. We don't fly out till the next Sunday. So, of course, you can imagine high blood pressure. The blood pressure goes up a little bit, trying to figure out what's going on. I'm in prayer. My wife's in prayer. We've got a tour group watching everybody else in chaos. Our group, thankfully, all you guys that are listening, thank you for remaining calm with us. It really helped in our efforts in the rest of the trip. Everybody stayed calm, and we got through it, didn't we? Everybody came home. Well, what happens is on October 8th, the next day, Hezbollah in the north. It's not bad enough that Israel has to fight Hamas in the south, but they also Hezbollah in the north starts firing rockets into northern Israel and has pretty much done that every day since that time. For 1 year, except for just a few days, Hezbollah has fired rockets into Israel continually, tens of thousands of them. So, my wife and I are in a tour group, we're stuck back at the hotel when the sirens go off, and this is the first time that I had experienced this, but we had to go to the bomb shelters in the stairwell of the hotel, and I've never seen this before. So the missiles are coming in. The Iron Dome, the missile defense system, goes off to go get them intercept them in the air. Well, I'm trying to video that. And my wife is yelling at me, get in the bomb shelter. And I'm like, we may never get to see this again. And it was just, I'd never seen anything like that. I'd never been in a wartime situation. I've had a job since I was 14 years old, been working ever since, and never went into the military. And so I'd never seen anything like that. So I was trying to video it. Probably a mistake on my end. Could have been very horrific. However, thank God for the Iron Dome missile defense system, right? So that was the first missile attack that we had survived. And man, the Iron Dome missile defense system did its job. At one point, Hamas shot 2,700 missiles into Israel, and the Iron Dome took out all but 4 of them. Think about that. The technology, it's just been unbelievable. And we've seen that time after time over this past year. Well, that brings us to Monday, October the 9th of last year. At that point, our tour group, we're going to the, there were tour groups everywhere scattering, going crazy. We're in the hotel. We go down and eat dinner at night, and people are just frantic. And our group was relatively calm because my wife and I were calm because I know I've got Jesus on my side, and with him, hey, I mean, that's my own Iron Dome, wasn't it? You guys in the tour group, you understand what I'm saying? So, but the other tour groups, they're going nuts, and they're dispersing their groups. They're saying, hey, we're getting plane flights out of here, and they were actually going out to the airport. They bombarded the airport, you can imagine, all at the same time, and they were putting people in their tour groups. Hey, we can get 2 on this flight. We can get 6 on that flight. They were splitting up their tour group. Now imagine being overseas, and you're leaving your tour group, you're leaving your tour guide, and you're getting on a plane, but they were not coming back to the United States. The planes they were getting people out of there, and they were going to Athens, Greece, Dubai, Frankfurt, Germany, to Cyprus, many places, and then they had to secure a flight home from there. So quite the dicey situation. Many people returned back to the hotel because it got to the point where there were no flights available. There's nothing they could do. Can't get out of the country. We were stuck there. My wife talked to a lady in the hotel elevator, and she asked, how is your group doing? And the lady said, we're doing the best we can to get out of the country. We may be going into Jordan to fly out of Amman, Jordan, because there's nothing out of Tel Aviv. She said, we're kind of it's a really sketchy situation because our tour guide left. And my wife said, what do you mean left? She said, our tour guide left us here to fend for ourselves. And my wife was like, you have got to be kidding me. She said, no, our tour leader is gone, and we're trying to get flights out of here. Now imagine, you're in a foreign country. We're not in Kansas anymore, okay? Not the United States of America. You're in Israel, wondering how, and there's no flights out of Tel Aviv, so what am I going to do? Do I go to another country? What do I do? Total mess. So they were just doing everything they could to get out of here. Many people got on buses and different things and went to Amman, Jordan. Well, right there at the very end, I went to dinner one night, and I spoke to Paul Crouch Jr. Paul Crouch was used to be the head, he owned TBN, Trinity Broadcasting Network. His son, Paul Crouch Jr., I knew him from a project that we had worked on a couple years ago together called Trump 2024. He came and sat at my table. Hey, Dave, how you doing? Great. And I said, how you doing, man? And he goes, all I'm doing is looking for a way out of the country. We got caught here. And he said, there's no flights available. Probably have to go to Amman, Jordan, which he ended up doing, I believe. And that's how many groups got out. There was no more flights in Tel Aviv, so they went to Amman, Jordan to get out. A couple of our tour group members, they contacted the U.S. Embassy. And the U.S. Embassy said, unless it's a domestic or a dispute in the nation of Israel, we can't help you. In other words, we said, well, we're American citizens. And they said, hey, you guys are on your own. We will not supply you with flights out of the country. Oh, man, so we were like, okay. And so we did have someone contact us from the United States government to try to charter a plane. They said, hey, we can charter a plane for you. It will cost you $11,000 per person just to fly you out of the country. That's not to get you back to the States. That was to get us to Athens, Greece, Frankfurt, Germany, over into Dubai. Then you got to pay however much the ticket is to get home after that. So you're talking about $15,000 probably, or maybe more, just to get home. So my wife and I were praying about it, and we made the decision just to hunker down. I told her, I said, the best thing for us to do, we've got guaranteed tickets out next Sunday. Let's just stay here. The Lord will keep his hands upon us, and let's keep our group together. We'll fly out on our regular tickets. Well, our guide was doing his best, to find sites that groups could go see as much as possible, because some of these people had saved all their life to go to Israel one time. Now we're in a time of war. Well, on that day, I think it was on Tuesday or Wednesday, we went to the Garden Tomb. And after we went to Golgotha and the tomb, they put us in a lower chapel down in the bottom down there. And while I was sharing what happened at Calvary and was sharing the gospel plan with everybody, we heard several loud booms again. And I knew the Iron Dome defense system, it had been deployed to intercept incoming missiles. Well, the security of the tomb site came running down and tell us, hey, stay put, you're already in a bomb shelter. Hey, I was preaching. I was sharing the gospel of the kingdom of God with our tour group, and so I just kept on going. And I said, hey, the bombs will take care of themselves. What I'm telling you is much more important. A guy caught that on video because I believe that. I mean, if we're all going to go out of here today, the most important thing I can share with you is the gospel. So that was the second missile attack that we had survived. They were coming right in overhead, folks. I just kept talking and teaching the gospel. Later that day, we went to the Biblical Gardens, the Friends of Zion with Mike Evans, and, you know, I'd been praying daily, God, protect us, show us, because we were still in Jerusalem, and we were basically stuck there. We were asking God, show us what to do, direct our path. Well, we met some friends at the Friends of Zion Museum, and the president from Sorrel Tours, our tour guide, my wife Jana, and myself. We just met there for a cup of coffee. Hey, get a game plan. What do we do? We're in a state of war. I've never been here during a state of war. Where can we go? What do we do? How are we going to get to the airport? Things like that. And the leader of Sorrel Tours, his daughter and son-in-law, he thought because they were married and different things that they would be exempt from being called up as reservists. No. That day, they had been called up as reservists to go fight Hamas. They were just newlyweds, and they got called up to go fight. After some discussion about the rest of the trip, our friends strongly suggested that we do not go up to Tiberias, which has been bombed. All you guys that went with us in Israel, the Tiberias up on the Sea of Galilee, remember staying in that city? Well, actually, we didn't go up there, but we normally stay there during our tour groups. That city got hit with some rockets. And also Mount Carmel, if you remember going up there, some of you that have been on a trip with us, those things have been hit with rockets. I don't know what will happen on our next tour group. But he suggested, I don't believe you guys should go up into the Galilee because Hezbollah is now firing rockets up there. You guys could get stuck. If they close that down, you won't be able to go anywhere. It'd be illegal. So he said, I just purchased a hotel out on the Mediterranean Sea up in Netanya, about 30 minutes north of the airport. And he said, I believe you should go up there. Well, of course, this would prove to be a very pivotal part, a decision in our trip after seeing how things played out. And I knew that God was directing our footsteps. I felt very good about it. I told my wife, I said, look, this is the will of God. I believe we need to go up here. It's a very safe place. And actually, it ended up probably being one of the safest parts in all of the nation of Israel. God was leading and guiding and directing our footsteps, because had we went up to Tiberias, they locked the country down up there, and we could have been stuck. But God was helping us. So the next day, we leave Jerusalem. We head to Netanya, and our guide had scheduled for us to go to the Mount of Beatitudes and the Sea of Galilee and to baptize in the Jordan River, which is the highlight of the trip for us. But it was not to be. That night, I shared the gospel again. I explained repentance and the necessity of baptism and receiving the gift of the Holy Ghost. And I told them, hey, no matter what happens, those of you that want to be baptized, I'm going to baptize you, even if I have to do it in the Mediterranean Sea. Well, I didn't know what I was saying because 19 of the 38 that we had with us, they signed up for baptisms. Well, the very next day, this would have been October 12th, for the first time since its opening in 2014, the fortified underground emergency hospital up in Rambam, that was fully converted, this underground parking garage, you can convert that in case of an outbreak of hostilities with Hezbollah or the terrorist groups and different things, they could convert that into a fully functioning hospital like in 90 minutes. Well, they started that thing in operation. And it's cool because our partners years ago purchased 90 of those hospital beds. They were getting bombed. Casualties were coming in. And we were able to help in a lot of that. Thank God. It's so awesome. And thank you for giving to that. So that was also the day, it was the morning that we were getting ready to go up into the Sea of Galilee and baptize everybody. Well, that was the day that that so-called mistaken alarm goes out that, hey, there's armed drones coming in the northern section of Israel, and all the northern region is shut down completely, including the Galilee region. We could have been stuck there. Well, no baptisms, at least not in the Jordan River, because it was illegal for us to go up there. We're stuck at the hotel because all of Israel is shut down now. And get this, the safest place is the Netanya region, which is where we were in a hotel. And thank God for that. He was leading and guiding our footsteps all the way. We actually had a gentleman that rented a taxi, and he was going to go up to the Sea of Galilee. And when he went to get in the taxi, the security guard from the hotel went out and said, hey, man, where are you going? He said, I'm going to the Sea of Galilee. I'm only going to get here one time in my life. I want to go see it. Well, the security guard told him, he said, if you get in the taxi, I'm going to arrest you. Now, when I say security guard, these guys have pistols. He's full on, looks like a policeman. And our guide came to the man. He said, man, don't you understand? Israel is in a declared state of war. This isn't, what are you doing? Are you out of your mind? And the entire region is shut down up there. Well, of course, our whole tour group got the message at that point. We're not going anywhere. And we had received word just after we left Jerusalem that someone had been shot and killed right where we were there. So, very dicey situation, to say the least. We also learned that 2 SAR-L employees had been kidnapped in the initial invasion, and the daughter of SAR-L's CEO, her fiance, had been killed. So, it was hitting just close to home because we're all great friends with these people. We've known them for years and years and years, and they are just mourning, and we're mourning with them. And I mean, it was hitting very close to home, to say the least. And so, wow, we're coming up to a break already. Man, I just got started. I'm going to tell you some more about our trip and then what's going on with Israel and where we're at now, where we're headed, how it all started, why it started when we get back from the break. I've only got a little bit left of our testimony, but man, what a testimony it is. I know a lot of people are listening or will listen that was on the trip with us back on October 7th. I want to say God bless you all. I've seen many of you since. We'll go back someday.
A voice spoke to me and said, I've got something I want to show you. I was so sure God had talked to me. And I was stunned by what I saw.
A direct fulfillment of this over 2,500-year-old prophecy. The United States will stand with Israel.
Why haven't I ever seen this before?
1/3 of humanity will die. What do these beasts symbolize?
The lion, the bear, the leopard.
The combined beast from Revelation 13 represents the end-time government of the Antichrist. Understanding the end time.
Now streaming on Endtime Plus and available to order at endtime.com/UET. Go to endtime.com/UET or call 800-ENDTIME.
What if you could understand Bible prophecy? Dave Robbins, the host of the Endtime Show's TV and radio programs, is holding a free prophecy conference near you. Gain peace and understanding about what the Bible says concerning end-time prophecy. Call 1-800-ENDTIME or go to endtime.com/events to see when Dave will be in a location near you.
Welcome back, everybody. And you know, it's this at this point in our trip in October of last year, we get to the most crucial part of the trip for me, because after I'd shared the gospel twice, I had people that had come to me and said, Dave, and my wife, and said, hey, we don't want to get on the airplanes to leave for home until we're baptized. And I said, look, no matter what happens, I'll baptize you guys. I don't care if we got to do it in the swimming pool downstairs in the hotel. Well, the day we're 1 or 2 days from having to fly home, and the day we were going to baptize everybody, they closed all the swimming pools in Israel. So I thought, man, I can't, you know, there's showers in the hotels. I couldn't find a bathtub. So I'm like, I don't care what happens, we'll baptize y'all. If we got to go to a creek somewhere. But I was looking out over my balcony, and we're right there on the Mediterranean Sea, and I was like, you know what? Here is water, what doth hinder us, right? So I got with everybody. I'd been teaching them prophecy lessons and different things every night. We were having great moves of God, and I mean, we were teaching Bible prophecy, and I mean, it was just awesome tour. And even though we weren't getting to see a lot of the sites, we were learning a lot of stuff. And I got with the group and I said, hey, we're going to go down tomorrow and baptize you guys in the Mediterranean Sea. I had never done that. My guide, who can trace his family roots back 7 generations living in Israel, he said, I've never seen or heard of anybody doing that. But he said, if that's what you want to do, we'll do it. Well, next day we get up, everybody goes down there. We could only take 10, because of security, because we're in a lockdown now, we could only take 10 people at a time down there. And we had, I think, 19 or 20 that wanted to be baptized. So we took them down to the Mediterranean. We had helicopters fly with the long guns. I mean, these weren't practice runs. These guys were ready for war because Hamas had invaded by the Mediterranean Sea. And so they were watching the shores. Well, we had helicopters flying overhead, and I was baptizing people. I waded way out in there and started baptizing. Well, the waves were crashing over us. I mean, I drank so much salt water, it was unbelievable. I probably still have some of that in my system. But we baptized everybody. Many people received the Holy Ghost, and what a great time we had. We were having revival in the midst of a declared state of war in Israel. And it was fabulous. And again, to those of you that went with us, I want to say I love you guys. I'll never forget any one of you. And what a great time it has been. And again, we will go back someday. I've had many of you contact me and say, hey, next time you guys go back, we're going with you. And I certainly can't wait for that. But the next day we all packed up, went down, when we got to the airport, normally when you get to the airport and you're coming home, it's full of people. There's tours everywhere. People are trying to get out of the country, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's just a chaos. It's a good chaos because I know we're going home. But if you've never been through it before, it can kind of seem chaotic for about 30, 45 minutes because the airport is full. When we got to the airport this time, it was almost empty. They told us, they said, you're either one of the last, if not the last tour group to leave Israel. There were a few people that were there, like families and different things that were trying to get out of Israel. But our tour group, we had an intact tour group, and we were the only ones in line. I mean, it was, except for some families and different things, some filming crews and some things trying to get out. I mean, I've never seen it like that before. We went right through security, right up out of there. And when we got to the gate, here come the sirens again. The Israel Missile Defense System, the Iron Dome, flew right by the windows at the gate and went up to get some more rockets that had been shot in from Hamas. It was crazy, right there by the Ben Gurion Airport. So I left out a lot of the story, but that's probably the main highlights for our trip. Last October, we were there from October the 6th all the way through till I think it was the 14th or 15th. And man, what a time it was. But Israel declared state of war. Right now, since then, Israel has been fighting, obviously, Hamas and Hezbollah. They started with Hamas initially. But what has happened, because Hamas was lobbing rockets into Israel, and Hezbollah from October the 8th was lobbing rockets in the north, there were so many refugees that had to leave their homes and flee into central Israel. Well, a lot of the hotels were cram-packed with these refugees. Hotels the one we were staying in out in Netanya, that was full of refugees from the north and from the south. I mean, the hotel was just packed. But the hotel was great. I mean, they were still feeding us and everything was fine, but it was just packed full of people. I mean, cram-packed. And those people, think about this. This was last October 7th, October 8th. Many of those people are still in those hotels because they can't return to their homes in the north. Some of them have went back to the homes in the south, but some of them are still staying in the hotel. So we had a tour group planned for this November. And, of course, we had to cancel it because it's a horrific situation over there still. But they told us, they said, it's going to be hard for you to find hotels because we still had refugees staying in them hotels today, 1 year later. Think about that. And so it's quite the situation over there. It's a declared state of war. Israel, with the inclusion of Sudan possibly coming on board with Iran, Israel's fighting a 7, possibly an 8-front war right now. They're fighting Hezbollah in Lebanon. They're fighting terrorist factions of Iran in Syria, Iraq. They're fighting Iran themselves. They're fighting the Palestinian Islamic Jihad in the West Bank, Hamas down in the south, the Houthis down in Yemen, and then also now possibly terrorist proxies in Sudan. And they've now confirmed that there are terrorist proxies in the United States of America. You say, how could that be? We've got a protected border, right? No, we don't have a protected border. If you follow the news at all they got to do is fly them into Venezuela or El Salvador or even into Mexico, and they can walk right across. And they have confirmed that there are terrorist proxies here in America. What Iran's wanting to do is destroy Israel and then to destroy the United States. They call us Big Satan. They call Israel Little Satan. So let's get into, and they've been fighting that ever since. You know that I'm going to leave out a lot of detail here for the sake of time, but you guys, if you follow the news, you know what's been happening. It's this tit for tat. We've been firing into Hamas and up in Lebanon, and they've been firing into Israel. And, I shouldn't say tit for tat because people have been being killed. But it's just been back and forth this whole time for a year now. And Israel has started picking off the leaders of Hezbollah and Hamas, and it's been driving Iran out of their mind. So on April 13th, back on April 13th, when we were up at Jim Baker's, Iran attacked Israel directly for the first time in history. They shot like 300 drones and missiles and things. And, of course, Britain, the United States, Israel, they all shot down pretty much all of them. I think maybe one of them fell in some open territory. And some of the shrapnel may have injured some people, but they pretty much destroyed all of them. And then just the other day, Iran did it again, and that is why the world is waiting for Israel to retaliate against Iran for that attack. That is where we stand today. Now, many have asked the question, why did Hamas invade on October 7th? Because they did not do it just on a lark. They absolutely got the green light. There were many reasons. I'm going to give you 3 reasons that why they invaded. So for years it had just been a war of attrition. Hamas lobs a few rockets in, maybe Hezbollah lobbed a few into northern Israel. No big deal. It had been happening for years. I had been there touring before when Hamas was lobbing rockets into Israel. No big deal. We went down to Masada in the south. And we would go all the way up on the Lebanese border, up on the Syrian border, the Golan Heights, the UN overlook. We did all that right up on the border. I could touch the fence. We were that close. But, of course, there's no way you'd do that now. But a lot of people want to know, why did Hamas invade? Why did they go from lobbing a few rockets to breaking through all 3 barriers, killing 1,200-plus people, taking 251 hostages? Why? What was the green light? Well, all Israel news, many news sources are reporting this. Back in January, there was a story that flew under the radar that we certainly needed to discuss. And they said that it was the relationship between the October 7th massacre and the 5 red heifers. Now, a lot of people think that we have sensationalized the story of the red heifers. There's no sensationalism to it. It's absolutely a true story. It's prophetic, and the ceremony is going to happen, allowing them to build the 3rd temple and to resume the sacrifices. And again, if for some reason that ceremony doesn't happen, there will be some kind of a red heifer painted and they'll do some kind of a ceremony that's going to allow them to do that, because I know the sacrifices are going to be resumed, because the Antichrist is going to stop them in the near future. That's Bible prophecy 101. It is going to happen. So, yes, I did state that correctly. And at the 100-day mark of the war, Abu Abida, he's the military spokesman for the Hamas Al-Qassam brigades, he gave a televised speech about the Hamas efforts, as well as a reminder of the purposes of the war. Why did they do this? Now, I'm going to give you three. The speech was translated into English by the Palestinian Chronicle, and it said this. I'm quoting. He said, "We look back 100 days to remember the educated, the complicit, and the incapacitated among the world powers governed by the law of the jungle, reminding them of an aggression that reached its peak against our path, Al-Quds, or the Temple Mount, and Al-Aqsa. With the start of its actual temporal and spatial division, and the bringing, and get this, and the bringing of the red cows as an application of a detestable religious myth designed for the aggression against the feelings of an entire nation in the heart of its Arab identity, and the path of its prophet, the night journey, they say, and the ascension to heaven." So they're saying this is an affront to the Al-Aqsa Mosque. What they mean is, what we would call it the Temple Mount. They brought these red heifers, he said. So right there, amid this very wordy discussion of perceived Israeli aggression against Al-Quds, the Muslim name for Jerusalem, and Al-Aqsa, the Temple Mount, they said there lies a curious telling statement, the bringing of the red cows. The red cows being referred to, the 5 cows that were taken over there, the red Angus heifers that were imported from right here in Rockwall, Texas, back in September of 2022, through the joint efforts between Bona Israel, which is Byron Stinson, and the Temple Institute in Jerusalem. So that's one reason from the mouth of one of the Palestinian leaders that we saw that the red heifers as an affront to the Temple Mount, and we wanted to put that on ice. He said that's one of the reasons for the aggression on October 7th. The red heifers, folks, think about that. And it's a very, very true story, and it's happening. And so, wow, we're up to bumping up against another break here. When we get back, I'll give you 2 more reasons why they invaded on October 7th. And so we certainly want to understand these things and know what's going on. But we're living through the times right now. It could certainly escalate into World War III before it's all over with.
They that understand what is taking place will instruct many.
Except a man is born again, he can enter or see the kingdom of God.
I don't care what label you've been given or what label you've given yourself. You are essential. You still matter.
This is a journey, and when we get to the other side of that, that's where our prize is. That's where our reward is.
End time is not going anywhere.
All right, so let me give you another reason. Actually, I'll give you 2 reasons right here why October 7th happened. Let's say the umbrella of these 2 would be Mahdiism. You've got to consider Iran's ring of fire and the terrorist proxies surrounding Israel. It has been for years. I've been watching it for years and years and years. Even during ISIS and all this other stuff, you've got to look at this, what Iran's been trying to do. Iran has expanded the precision-guided missile project throughout the Middle East in order to build a ring of fire around the state of Israel. The plot to attack Israel It reflects an Iranian strategy to encircle Israel with armed groups and instigate turmoil and promote acts of terrorism. Why? Well, I want you to think of it like this. They want, for two reasons. They know the coming of the Messiah, of their Messiah, not the Messiah, of their fictitious Messiah. They call him the Mahdi or the 12th Imam. They believe when he comes, he will bring peace and justice to the earth, and he will establish a world government. That's one reason, because they see Israel as an affront to that. The second reason is that they need to destroy Israel and to destroy the United States in all of this. So the umbrella reason is the Mahdiism, or their 12th Imam. So that's their goal. Even if the Hamas situation ended tomorrow, Iran, the head of the snake, will still seek to destroy Israel. That's why it's a problem that she's fighting an 8-front war, because Hamas could care less about their terrorist proxies. Oh, Hamas is destroyed? Fine. Hezbollah, you come in and invade. Oh, Hezbollah is destroyed, let's say. This is a hypothetical situation. Well, then the terrorist proxies from the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, which Iran has been arming, or maybe Sudan, or the Houthis, or the terrorist proxies in Syria and Iraq. Maybe they just got an unlimited, they can just keep bombing. Now, it's not unlimited, but it could be a lot, devastating to Israel. That's why sometimes you just got to cut off the head of the snake, folks. It's definitely a possibility that the Israeli-Hamas war could have been the beginning stage, if not a continuation of previous events, igniting this apocalyptic war to bring down Israel. Iran's so-called apocalyptic war that they're wanting to do to get the United States and Israel out of the way so their Mahdi figure can come and establish peace and security and implement Sharia law globally. That's what they want to do. That's what this is all about. And also another thing, just in case I don't get to it, is the Saudi normalization deal that they wanted to put on ice. That's another reason they invaded. However, let me finish talking to you about Mahdiism here. To comprehend the full gravity of the situation, you've got to understand why it is important for Iran to eradicate Israel. This is one of the reasons they don't want the Saudi normalization agreement to happen. Okay? Because they don't want to give Israel access to all of the Middle East. And they know that that would give it to them, because a lot of the other Sunni Arab nations would come in to the Abraham Accords if Saudi Arabia would. So you got three reasons why Hamas invaded. The red heifers, from their own leader's mouth, their Mahdiism, and this belief system that they've been indoctrinating their terrorist proxies with, and the Saudi normalization agreement and the deal that was getting ready to happen. So, Mahdiism. What's going on here? Iran wants to implement Sharia, the Shiite version of Sharia law globally. And it views the West, i.e. the United States, Israel, and even some of Europe, and their efforts to establish a world government standing in the way of that. Mostly the United States. So Iran believed that Israel is the United States' encroachment or our footprint into the Middle East. That's why they've got to destroy Israel and expel the United States out of the Middle East to begin with, and then come to destroy the United States after that. The ideology that's driving these efforts is called Mahdiism. Khosrow Arabi, I remember reading an article from him. He's the director of the IRGC research at the United Against Nuclear Iran, and the non-resident scholar at the Middle East Institute in Washington, D.C. In an interview with the Sun's David Ross, I remember watching this, he reveals that the anti-Semitic extremist ideology, Mahdiism, which drove October 7th Hamas attacks on Israel, he recounts the story that he had been writing for years. And he's saying, look, he said, we've been talking about this, we've been reporting about this, but he says this, and I'm quoting here. I wanted to quote this for you. He says since 2009, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, has focused on a particular doctrine that it has been radicalizing its members and their families with. Now, these are the terrorist proxies, okay, which have created the ring of fire around Israel. Their militaristic doctrine of Mahdiism. And again, I'm quoting here. Now, amongst Islamist ideologies, the militaristic doctrine of Mahdiism is the most extreme doctrine. Think about what I told you happened on October 7th. That's a cakewalk compared to what they could do, they want to do to all of Israel and the United States. This doctrine is all centered around the return of their so-called hidden imam. Now, again, this is all fictitious, everybody. This is not going to happen. But they call him the hidden imam who Shia Muslim believe was withdrawn into a state of disappearance or a miraculous state of disappearance by God in 874 AD. One day he will return and bring justice to the world. He will, according to them, reappear. And to do that, according to historic Sharia narrations, he will return with an army of 313 commanders that will wage a war against the infidels, the non-Muslims. Prior to his arrival, prior to their Mahdi's arrival, prior to the hidden imam's arrival, there will be an apocalyptic war where Jews worldwide will be eradicated and killed. Again, this is not going to happen. It's not going to happen. The Jews around the world, they will suffer some persecution at the time of the Great Tribulation, but Israel proper will be intact all the way. Now, there will come a time when they face, obviously, the Battle of Armageddon at the end. But up till that point, Israel even retains control of all of Jerusalem. But when we're talking about this apocalyptic war, which Iran believes is going to speed up the return of their Mahdi, their Messiah figure, is another reason that you've got to consider the current Middle East turmoil as a step towards the prophesied World War III scenario. Mr. Arabi, he goes on to say that the IRG, and I'm quoting now, the IRGC since 2009 has been indoctrinating its recruits on the basis of that the IRGC is the militaristic vehicle to speed up the Mahdi's return. And they have been communicating and radicalizing their recruits. And this is Hamas, this is Hezbollah, this is the Houthis in Yemen. They've been indoctrinated with this mindset that there are barriers to the hidden imam's return. There's something holding the return of their Messiah back. Think about this. He's supposedly a God, right? But there's something on earth that could hold him back. The biggest barrier, they claim, is the existence of the state of Israel. They draw, again, on these Shia historic narrations that prior to his arrival, all Jews across the world will be eradicated. And we've seen that the IRGC double down on this Mahdiist doctrine, so much so that right now, the October 7th terrorist attack across the board, by the way, was not just in relation to the IRGC across the axis of resistance, that it's being communicated as the first step towards their Mahdi's arrival. October 7th, that happened 1 year ago today. These terrorists are being told that invasion was the first step towards the eradication of the state of Israel. Think about that. Now, I want you to never forget, Iran is fighting a proxy war. Iran's the one calling the shots. Hamas invaded Israel on October 7th, but Iran is ultimately responsible. Okay? Mr. Arabi, he explains, and he says this, the IRGC is the principal supporter of the Hamas military, financially and logistically in terms of armaments. He says this terrorist attack that took place on October 7th, it simply could not have taken place without not only a green light from the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, or Iran giving them the green light, but the strategic coordination at the planning level. He said, we know because there have been multiple reports, there's been multiple amount, a plethora amount of intelligence. And folks, let me tell you, it's not just Israel that they're after. The Middle East Institute published an article, it was titled, The Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps and the Rising Cult of Mahdiism, Missiles and Militias for the Apocalypse. And the article states this, and I'm quoting again. Listen at this. A quick examination of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps' ideological political textbooks also reveals the way in which it views the United States as an evil regime, and that we are intent on world domination, which we are. Our leaders want to have a new world order. Well, this worldview sees the United States, the Mahdiist doctrine, as the representation of all that is evil, and puts the Iranian Islamic Republic of Iran on the side of everything that's good. Now, this is what they're indoctrinating their terrorist proxies with. It says, linked to this notion is the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps' other key ideological pillar of eradicating the state of Israel and Zionism. But like other Islamist ideologies, the IRGC's Shia Islamist worldview regards Israel as an illegitimate, oppressive, and usurping entity created in the heartland of the Muslim world to enable the West to achieve its supposed colonial goals. The liberation of Palestine through and they call all of Israel Palestine. The liberation of Palestine through the destruction of Israel remains one of the IRGC's main objectives, and anti-Semitism pervades every aspect of its ideology. So, folks, the annihilation of Israel is only the first phase of the plan. Iran must destroy Israel first and then come after the United States. That is the goal in all of this, everything that's happened over the last year. They believe now is our time to eradicate Israel, then come after the United States. Because they believe they need to instigate a war to quicken the coming of their Messiah figure, which is a mythical figure. He doesn't even exist. But from the time these kids were born, these terrorist proxies have been indoctrinated with this. And they believe they are spiritually bound to destroy Israel and the United States of America. That's why they were given the green light by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps to invade on October 7th because of the red heifers, because of the Saudi Arabia normalization deal, and because of this Mahdiist doctrine. They felt it was time, and they needed to invade because they needed to put the red heifer ceremony on ice and the Saudi Arabia normalization deal, which it did both of those things. Now Israel is fighting for her life. She's against the world. The International Criminal Court is against Israel. The International Court of Justice, the United Nations. It's all boiling to the point where it looks like it is getting ready to explode. Now, can I say for 100% this is World War III? I cannot. But it sure looks like it could be. Certainly something we need to consider. That's what started back on October 7th of last year.